Hey guys, Luis Moreno here, Simply Health Insurance Agency in partnership with 360 Insurance Group. Today we've got a special guest, Dr. Ed Weir. He is a former, and correct me, former district manager at Social Security.
Correct. Former district manager of the Las Vegas office, which is the third busiest office in the country. There's two offices in New York City that are busier, and Las Vegas is number three. Saw thousands of people every single day.
Wow, number three. Well, that's. I bet you're going to share some of your knowledge with us. The other, you're also a educator, correct?
Correct. I teach at the university level. I teach Asian history, Japanese history, American history sometimes at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Done there for a couple of decades as well.
Cool. Well, you're very knowledgeable in Social Security. And guys, the reason I asked Ed to join us today is because when we talk to seniors, we do get questions in reference to Social Security, which for us agents, it's hard for us to get some knowledge on what happens at the Social Security level. We are knowledgeable with Medicare, with products. That's kind of where our lane is. But once we start touching Social Security, that's kind of some other lane, but it would be good for us agents to have at least an understanding so that we can maybe answer some questions, but then direct them over there. So with that, Ed, I'm going to let you take over here. Educate us on Social Security. What happens with these people when they turn 65 and they start applying for benefits at Social Security?
Okay, so all right, let's I'll go through kind of retirement and the whole nine yards and ball of wax disability. So retirement, obviously they can file for retirement starting at 62 years old, but when you file early at 62, you're looking at about a 30% reduction. So some people go ahead and file at 62 and take that hit because they obviously need the money, uh, or they're looking to sock it away somewhere. If they wait, you're looking at about a 7% increase year after year. So if you wait from 62 to 63, your monthly benefits increase by about 7%. If you wait until your full retirement age, as you know, the full retirement age is slowly going up. It used to be 65, now it's like 66 and 8 months, and all the way up to 67 years old. You can actually wait from 67 to 70 and get what's called DRCs, delayed retirement credits. So if you wait past your full retirement age from 67, let's say, to 70, that increases by about 8%. So that's not a bad return on your kind of investment, is 8% year after year, year after year, in terms of your benefit amount increasing. Probably one of the number one questions I get on a regular basis is, okay, when should I retire? Should I wait? Should I do it at 62, 63, 65, 67, 70? And nobody knows. It really depends on that particular person's whether they need the money now. If you need the money now, you need the money now. How healthy the person is, the longevity of their family, a lot of different variables, whether they're working. If you retire early, you have to stay within the annual earnings limit. This year it's $21,240. Once you hit your full retirement age, you can make $1 million a month. It doesn't matter anymore. But in terms of when should I retire, I always tell people that there is one day I can tell you 100% when you should file, and that is the day you die. Once I know your date of death, I can tell you exactly. Oh yeah, you should have filed at 63. Yeah, but obviously, then it's just
Yeah, there you go.
it's
And
a
I
bit
got
too
a
late.
question on that. When you said filing early, and you said, I guess there's a penalty if you're still working. Can you explain that?
Exactly. So once you're under your full retirement age, under FRA, that's a great thing about Social Security, and Lewis is also up on, he's the master sergeant on acronyms, and federal programs are all about acronyms. Yeah, once you're under FRA, you're limited the amount of money you can make. And again, this year's $21,240. Every $2 you work over that, Social Security withholds $1. So if you make 31,000, if you make $10,000 over and you're collecting benefits at 63, $10,000 over, Social Security is going to hold back $5,000. So basically, kind of the first, if you're getting $1,000 a month, then Social Security is going to withhold the first 5 months of benefits. Okay. And then what a lot of people don't know is if you retire early, if you retire, let's say, 20 months early, and then because of work or whatever the case may be, you don't collect a check for those 10 months. For 10 months, you only collect for the other 10 months. When you turn your full retirement age, Social Security automatically recalculates that. So it gets a little bit complicated. And it's usually I have to explain it a couple of times to people. But if you took a 20-month reduction, but you only, accepted 10 checks, once you turn your full retirement age, Social Security adds that 10 months back into your benefit amount, and that's automatic at your full retirement age.
Okay, got
And
it.
yeah,
I think I understand that.
yeah. And the year you turn your full retirement age, it's a completely different number. It's no longer the 21,000. It's what this year, 56, 57,000 or so. And that's only before your full retirement age month. Again, if your full retirement age month is July, then you can make $1 million a month. But for those first, 6 months from January to June, you have to stay within 56,000. Kind of same thing. And one of the other things I'm doing another video right now. People are losing money left and right. People from all over the country call me on a daily basis and, hey, what should I do? And I start asking a bunch of questions. I was like, well, sorry, you just lost a lot of money. Every single day, people are losing money. One I just had recently, lady wanted to go ahead and retire, but she saw the $21,240 and says, well, I've already made over that. The year retire, the first year, that doesn't matter. Let's say from January until June, you make $1 million, but you want to go ahead and start your benefits in July. Social Security doesn't care about before you start your benefits. They only care about when you start your benefits. So $21,240 divided by 12 months is about 1,700 or so. So if she makes under 1,700 starting July going forward, she's good. She can collect her benefits and continue to work and make the 1,700. But this lady, she made a lot of money before then. She said, well, I can't retire until next year because I made too much. No. It's not until you actually turn on your benefits. Then the annual limit moves into a monthly limit. So a lot of people are missing money because of that as well. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. I see a lot of YouTube channels and unfortunately some Medicare insurance agents that are giving out Social Security advice that probably shouldn't. There are so many exceptions to the exceptions to the exceptions when it comes to Social Security. So you have to call Social Security, and unfortunately, right now, as I'm sure everybody knows, you call Social Security and you're on hold for a year, and then or for maybe a year. And if you're filing an appeal for administrative, if you're filing an appeal for administrative law judge because your disability, it does take a year. To get in, it takes about an hour or two. And if you go down to the office, our line and my office in the morning line, there's like 200 or 300 people waiting in line every single morning for our office to open at 9 o'clock. So yeah, it's hard to get in there. So people are frustrated. So if they're going to file for retirement, online is the best way to do it. To file online is very, very relatively easy, but I would, whether it's Social Security or Medicare, I myself don't help people file online, and I would, unless you've got a lot of time to spare, I probably wouldn't either, because to get in there, you need to go into SSA.gov and set up an account. And, a lot of people have accounts, but they haven't accessed it in a while. And so they lost their password. So they have to get a new password, and they have to get a text sent to them. Or if they forget that, then they got the challenge questions about, where did you live 10 years ago? Do you have a mortgage with this company? And all those questions. And then, what you think might be something quick, take 2 or 3 hours of your time. So I would avoid trying to help people file for Medicare and retirement unless you've got a lot of time, because it might be easy. It might take 30 minutes, but it might take 3 hours too. So I don't think I would commit.
Yeah, and I agree with you that I train Medicare agents. That's my position or my role in the company, and I tell them all the time: stay in your lane. You're an insurance agent. Guide them, recommend plans. Focus on the insurance. Don't get involved with Social Security. And my advice to my seniors when I meet with them, I'm like, I'd love to help you, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Now I know what I'm doing with Medicare. I'll do that all day long with my eyes closed and half asleep, and I'll do a better job than most agents. But I will tell you, Social Security, my recommendation, and tell me if you're right in line with me. Hey, Mr. Senior, Miss Senior, hey, why don't you just go to the Social Security office and get some guidance, and they can set you up the right way. And get your Medicare while you're there. Once you're there, and we'll talk about that here in a little while. But once you get your Medicare, then that's where I come in. Now you're in my lane. Now we're playing my game where I can help you. And I know agents that do it and they try, and it's a time waster, and you're not going to get compensated.
Yep. And unfortunately, if you give them incorrect information, then they're going to come back to you and say, hey, I lost thousands of dollars because you told me I should have done this, but I actually should have done this other thing. Yeah, call the 800 number 772-1213, go down to the local office. And I always tell the people I talk to, Social Security employees are not like car salesmen. Go down there, ask your questions, say, okay, I'm thinking about retiring this time. And then, so my wife was going to collect benefits and this, that, and, throw out all your, all the scenario that you're thinking about. And then just say, okay, let me think about it. A car salesman is like, oh my God, it's the worst thing you could possibly hear. Let me think about it, right? Medicare insurance agent, let me think about it. But a Social Security employee, that's music to their ears. That means, they don't have to take that case back to their desk and adjudicate it. They can go on to the next appointment. There are 50 people that are waiting for them. So you can go down there, play around with all the variables, get all the correct numbers, exactly how much you would receive if you do this, how much you would receive if you do that, how much your spouse would receive if you would do this, all the repercussions, and just walk away. And you have what's called protective filing. So anytime, a lot of people miss money here too. Anytime you call Social Security, you are protected. Your filing is protected, which means if you call today in June and get in touch with Social Security and set up an appointment for 2 months later, or you walk into a Social Security office and ask a question, you're protected. So if you do that this month in June, and then 2 months later you said, okay, all right, I thought about it, I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger, I'm going to go ahead and start my benefits, you can actually go back to June because you protected yourself in June. You were just thinking about it. So you don't have to wait for 2 months and lose 2 months of checks. You can say, okay, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And remember, I first talked to you back in June, so I want to start my benefits in June, and that shouldn't be an issue. So you can save a lot of money there. There's so many so many variables and so many ways you can kind of work the system, and legally, obviously, but there's so much details to it. All right, so they can file.
One question
Sure.
Before we move, Ed, because I'm still a long ways from there. I got at least 15 years. I think my full retirement age is 67. So
yep.
I've got 15 years more that I've got to work. So if I go into Social Security office, my assumption is that the agents there don't give advice. They just present. They're just going to give you numbers, and ultimately you decide. Is that what happens there?
Exactly. We used to, because I worked for Social Security for 20 years, and I've taken hundreds and hundreds of thousands of retirement claims, disability claims, survivor, spouse, all the rest of it. And up until about 10 years ago, we used to do the calculation of break-even points. So like if you file early and you decide to start at 62, sure, your monthly benefit amount is going to be reduced by $70 or whatever the case may be, but you'll also get all those years ahead of the game in terms of checks. So it's pretty easy to do. You just say, okay, you're going to get an extra $50,000 worth of checks, but it's going to cost you $70 a month, and therefore you calculate 50 divide 50 by that, and you come up with usually it's like 14 years. So your break-even point is 14 years. So it's, it's usually, again, depends on a lot of variables. Most people like to take it a little bit early. So Social Security employees used to give that break-even point analysis, but I guess Congress said that's, financial advice that maybe we shouldn't be given. So we stopped doing that too. But it's pretty easy to do. Just, figure out, number one thing is whether you need the money. A lot of the seniors out there need the money. So it's not they've got no other place to kind of sock that money away. So get it started. So you can file on, they can file online. They can call the 800 number and schedule an appointment. And again, now the Social Security employee the Social Security Administration just hired a bunch of employees, but the wait times are not going to be affected for a year or two, because when Social Security employees are hired, they go through about a 3 or 4 month class, 40 hours a week. And for 3 or 4 months, because when you're hired for Social Security, you don't need to know anything about Social Security. So if you know anybody that are looking for a job out there, Social Security Administration, especially vets. If you're a vet, particularly that was in any of the recent wars, if you got those badges, I've hired dozens of vets. I'm a Marine Corps sergeant, former Marine Corps sergeant myself. So vets are very easier to hire, and they usually don't have them out on USA Jobs. If you got somebody in your family that's a vet, tell them to come up with a resume, a long resume that shows customer service, not one of those one pagers. I mean, a long one. A lot of detail, a lot of customer service, and you help this amount of people and all this kind of stuff. And then just take it down to your local Social Security office and say, hey, can you give this to the district manager? Walk in there and there's guards in the lobby and just say, hey, can you hand this to the district manager? And then might luck out and get hired. So there's that.
Interesting. Not
Yeah.
a bad gig there. So if they do it online, all these different calculations, the exception to the exception that you mentioned, all that's going to be accessible to somebody who's doing their application online also, right?
Exactly. Okay. And they can go through myssa.gov, and Social Security always recommends that you set up an account. So if you're currently receiving benefits, it's good to set up an account. So please have your seniors set up an account. Why? Because if they do that, they have to put their email address and their phone and everything. So if someone goes in there and tries to pretend to be them and open up an account and change their direct deposit or something, they'll get an alert that, hey, are you trying to, change your direct deposit and stuff? But if you don't set up an account, someone might be able to go in there and, change your direct deposit. It's difficult, but it's possible.
Well, let's go one step further into benefits, and let's talk about the word widow. What's the word I'm looking for survivor benefits. There you go, survivor benefits, because that's also, I get that question from a lot of my seniors. Well, what if one of my spouses passes away? Whose benefit do I get? Mine, theirs, both? Can you share a little information on that?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, survivor benefits. So if the person, the spouse, is currently on the deceased record. So for instance, you got a couple of 70-year-old husband and wife, and let's say the wife is already collecting spousal benefits from the husband's record, because again, you can collect spousal benefits if your benefit amount is the full benefit amount. It's called the PIA, the primary insurance amount, the amount you would get if you had waited until your full retirement age. If that amount is less than half of your spouse, you could possibly collect benefits to come up to the half. So if you're collecting, $1,000 and the husband is collecting $3,000, you can collect another $500 from the spouse. Okay. All right. So 70 years old, the husband passes away. And in most states in the country, it's automatic reporting. So the funeral home automatically reports it to the Social Security Administration, the death. And if the spouse is already on the record, everything is automatic. The the surviving spouse claim is automatically done, and they also get that awesome, wonderful lump sum death payment, the $255. Anyway,
Yeah, and they
so
think that that's enough to bury. And then maybe it was what back then was. When did Social Security start? In the 70s,
1950s,
1950.
255, 1950s. I
Wow.
could buy you a
So
bouquet of flowers back then, but not a whole heck of a lot nowadays. Yeah,
I agree with you. Yes.
yeah. So the benefit amount is what the the deceased spouse, what that person was receiving, including the DRCs, the delayed retirement credits. So if that person, waited until they're 69 years old, after their full retirement age and got a really good increase in their benefits, and then they passed away, then the surviving spouse would receive that check, essentially what that person was receiving. And their own check obviously essentially stops, right? So that's one of the things that I've taken hundreds of thousands of surviving claims, and people come into their office at this this terrible time, and go through all the application, and I say, okay, here's what you're going to get, and they say, okay, yeah, that's great, we've been getting that $3,000 check, and that's great, that's awesome, so I'll get that, plus I'll still got my own, right? No, no, no. Unfortunately, yours will stop essentially. It's really not. They're still getting this. There's just the difference between it. But in terms of total household income going forward, you were getting $3,000 and 1,500, so that's 4,500, and then the guy dies, and now you're going from 4,500 down to $3,000, and so it's kind of a shock to some people. But unfortunately, that's the reality.
I agree with you. And then I want you to throw a stat at me with your experience and the thousands of people that you've helped. I always tell our agents, look, most seniors never plan for retirement. Social Security is all that they've got. How true is that with your experience? And also, what did you see as a normal or an average benefit amount for these seniors?
Yeah, that's I'd probably say probably about half. It seems like, in terms of planning, I'm sure a lot of people would like to plan, but their jobs throughout their life just didn't facilitate. They were planning, but they just didn't have money to sock away and didn't have any 401ks or anything else. So but yeah, there's quite a few people that just didn't. I always used to say that I would go out into the lobby and call this person, okay, Paul Smith, and Paul Smith would come, and it seems like they just started planning for retirement while they were waiting for me to call their name from the lobby. And it's like, you've been waiting this for decades and completely unprepared. In terms of benefit amount, I think what they just came out with, the average benefit amount is about 1,800 or so across the country. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are completely unprepared. The entire Social Security bureaucracy is just phenomenally difficult to navigate. And I hate to use old Donald Rumsfeld, but you don't know what you don't know. And that's where I see a lot of people losing benefits because, again, I just talked to another person, added to a video I'm going to put up today. Husband and wife, nicest couple. She was receiving less than half of his, and they thought she couldn't receive any benefits from him until he passed away. So they've lost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of benefits because they just didn't know. And that's one of the reasons is a few months ago, I started doing this YouTube channel that I've been doing. I've got about 120 videos on there, so please check out my YouTube channel. And I talk about Medicare, obviously, and auxiliary child and care benefits, how to file for disability, how to deal with the bureaucracy, and so definitely use it as a reference. So if you have a question from one of your insureds, just check out my YouTube channel and listen to the answer, and then call your insured back, and you will sound like an expert. So you've got a resource there to use.
Hey, are we on the right channel here, Ed?
Yep, that's it. mygovexpert.com. Yes.
So if you want to get some more information from a former Social Security manager, guys, this is where you're going to go and get it. He's got a bunch of videos on here. So yes, I wanted to share this with you. So if you want to learn more, you want to become a little more knowledgeable, just enough so you can talk and feel educated enough, but still educated enough that you send them to Social Security to go do what they got to do. Go hit his channel up and subscribe. There it is for you guys. mygovexpert.com.
Yeah, and I would definitely, again, as Lewis says, stay in your lane, because there's so many exceptions to the exceptions to the exceptions that generally the information you're probably going to give is, probably 90% of the time it's accurate. But because of all the exceptions, I wouldn't risk it. I would just tell them, go to Social Security if you've got any problems, call you. But yeah, I would kind of avoid giving Social Security. There's a company that I think when we met in Vegas, I think some people actually had that on their business card. There's some company out of Florida, I think it is, that gives like a 2-day seminar, and they give you a little certificate that says now you're a Social Security advisor or something. And yeah, again, Social Security employees, 3 or 4 months of training, and then after they finish their training, they're on full review for about a year or so. So every single button they push, every case they adjudicate is completely reviewed by a technical expert for like a year or so. So it takes a good 2 years for a Social Security employee to learn their job. So I wouldn't, think you're going to do it in a couple of weeks or just by
2
watching my
days.
videos. But yeah, but at least you're able to kind of, kind of direct your people and help them out as much as you can. And that way they can, feel, oh, okay, this guy is really helping me out, and, get them to commit to you so you can, close the deal.
Cool. Well, I want to go 2 more stages on this one. This one that I want to talk on, because it has happened where I have a senior who worked for the government, maybe worked for a teacher retirement system. Maybe they contributed to Social Security, maybe not. I know school districts, some do, some don't. Talk to me about maybe possibly double dipping into retirement. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Let's talk about that. There's a couple of terms that I heard. WEP was one of them, I think, and there's some other ones. I'm like, what is this?
Yep, WEP and GPO. So there is probably about 3% of people throughout the country that their retirement systems don't play with Social Security. Okay. And in Las Vegas, our our school district did, in LA and Chicago and different places. So you've got, public employees, firefighters, cops, teachers that don't pay into Social Security. Okay. But sometimes, they had other jobs when they're younger, or they got some part-time jobs. So they do pay into Social Security in those other jobs. So they're entitled to Social Security. Well, WEP is, I have had to deal with this for decades because I was in a WEP area, and they are always extremely angry. So I did a video, about an hour video, that I've got up there, and it's still one of my most controversial. And but check it out if you're interested in that. Basically, what it is, if they paid into Social Security at their part-time job or whatever, they're entitled to Social Security, but the WEP is called a windfall elimination provision. So what it was in the 80s, Social Security, or Congress, said, okay, we're going to give people that, don't have as much money coming in from Social Security because they didn't pay into Social Security very much. They were disabled for a lot of their lives, or they were very low income, and, basically welfare type things. And so when these people retire, we're going to give them more as a percentage. Usually your replacement rate is about 30% or something like that, or total. But for the lower amounts, so Congress decided, okay, we're going to give these people not 30%, we're going to give them a lot more for the lower amounts. And then it's called bin points. And the second bin point, we're going to give you less. And then the third bin point, because you're making a lot of money, then we're going to give you a lot less. So the total thing equals about 30% or so. So it gets, I wouldn't do a computation, a WEP computation, bin points and average index monthly earnings and all this other kind of crazy stuff. But basically Congress decided, okay, we're going to give people that are struggling a little bit more money. Well, this, this chief of police from LA comes in, and he was making, $150,000 a year for 30 years under the the non-covered pension, but he's also entitled to Social Security. So what happens is the calculation looks at this guy and says, you've been eating out of trash can for the past 40 years, because you were only paying, you were only earning $4,000 a year, $5,000 a year. So wow, you must have a heart. Were you on the homeless on the streets on Skid Row in LA? No, he's making $150,000. But Social Security, the computer system looks at this, and they're going to give him that extra money as a calculation because it looks like he was poor all his life, because it doesn't look at it doesn't look at those other numbers. So the windfall, that's a windfall. He's getting what he's not wasn't entitled to, wasn't targeted for. So it's a windfall. And this is a provision to eliminate that windfall. So we're not going to give you an extra amount because you were poor all your life. We're going to give you the normal amount because you weren't poor. And then the government pension offset is the same type of thing, but the government pension offset is a spousal offset. So if the spouse worked in non-covered pension, then that would be recalculated. So the issue is people come in, they say, hey, I'm being penalized, this, that, and the other, and you're reducing my, no, your benefit is not being reduced. Your benefit is your benefit. It's always been your benefit. But when they get the statement and it says, okay, when you retire, you're going to get, $1,500. And they see that $1,500 and they stop. And that's what they believe. I'm going to get $1,500. But they don't read the little line underneath that unless you were getting non-covered pension. If you're getting a non-covered pension, this is not your amount. They don't look at that part. They just look at the $1,500 and they go by that and they say, oh, you're only going to give me $600. What's going on? Well, it said right there that if you're getting a non-covered pension, you're not getting the $1,500. So that was always fun.
Super
Yes.
complicated, man.
Yes.
Again,
yes. So
another reason why you need to stay in your lane and send them to Social Security. All right, that easy. Yeah. I've been hit with those questions, and I'm sorry. Hit me with insurance questions. I can help you with that. I can't help you with Social Security questions. Too tough.
right.
All right, let's go into kind of my lane now. All right, so we've talked. Oh, you want to do maybe disability, or should we go into Medicare?
Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah, so disability, in order to get Social Security disability for Social Security is basically your inability to work. So if you have a disability that's going to last 12 months or longer and keeps you from working, that is a viable disability for Social Security. Again, Social Security was started in the 1930s. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he had polio, he couldn't walk, but he was working. Right. So people come in and say, I can't walk, or, whatever the issue may be. Well, there's a lot of people that are in wheelchair. We had a person in a wheelchair in our office that was working. So it's the inability to work. Your disability is keeping you from working. So you file for your disability application, your claim. And again, I've got a video that explains all that, and there's little ins and outs. And in terms of hiring a lawyer, I wouldn't hire a lawyer for the first 2 stages. If you file on your initial claim, and everybody always hears everybody's denied the first time, which is, sorry, it's BS. I've taken, tens of thousands of disability claims, and, some thousands of those were immediate. It's funny. I, take the claim at 9 o'clock in the morning. This guy's, on an accident, and obviously, very disabled. I take the claim at 9 o'clock in the morning. Social Security has this algorithm they look at it, and it says, okay, here's all the conditions, yada, yada, yada. The next day, the person is approved. So there's a lot of people that are approved if they, again, are disabled. Back issues are very difficult. Those take a long time. Mental issues are very difficult. Those take a long time. But they file, and they have to wait to 3 or 6 months. Social Security, they don't have to provide their medical records. Social Security requests the medical records directly from the doctors. You get a decision in 3 or 6 months. If they're denied, then they can file an SSA 561, which is a request for reconsideration. They send that up and a different person looks at it. The medical part, Social Security takes the actual the disability claim, ask you all the questions and, what doctors do you go to and what's your disabling condition and everything. And then they send it up to what's called a DDS, Disability Determination Service. And those are all state agencies. And those are the agency that does the actual medical determination, gets all the medical records. So if you're denied at the second level, the reconsideration, then you can file it's a form 501. I still remember all the forms. Anyway. To request administrative law judge. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It takes about a year to get your day in court. So, and that's the stage I would hire a lawyer at. And I would tell people to stay away from those, just as in Medicare, stay away from those nationally advertised anything. If they're nationally advertised disability law firms, I would avoid those because they're just, clearing houses. And, I've seen hundreds of thousands of claims and those are, just not very good. Get a local lawyer that does disability. And the third stage to administrative law judge, then, I would hire probably a lawyer. But if you win, then you pay them. If you don't win, then you don't have to pay them.
Gotcha. And don't they keep like a couple of months or they charge you? Is that how they get compensated or is it a flat amount normally?
Yeah, it's I think it was what, $7,000 or so, up to 25%, $7,000. Yeah. Again, if you win. And if you're approved, say for instance, if you wait 2 years, to get the judge and the filing, you get an approval, they will take you back. Again, that protective filing I was talking about. So they will take you back to those 2 years. So I get people all the time. I'm going to do another disability video this week. Medicare starts the 24th after you're on disability for 24 months. The 25th month, your Medicare starts automatically. And yep, I get a lot of people. I just talked to somebody last week. They've been on disability for like 3 years. And I guess they got, those Medicare junk in the mail and they just threw it away. This person had Medicare for a year. They didn't know about it. I guess they threw the card away. They didn't know. They thought they wouldn't get Medicare until they're 65. So that's one of the problems with Social Security. Social Security isn't doing their job and telling these people, they're inundated and, short-staffed and all the rest of it, but that's not an excuse. They're not telling these people, what's going on, what's going to happen. So again, 25th month, Medicare, and that's when you start having that conversation and getting that Medicare plan.
Exactly. That's an IEP. So you get them in there. And then when they turn 65, you will have IEP 2, the second time when they can enroll and possibly change plans if they need to. Otherwise, they can just stay where they're at. So yes, 2 years after disability. And then Ed, there's also different types. There's 2 types of disabilities. One of them will get you Medicare and one will not.
SSI and SSDI. So
Yes.
SSI is supplemental security income and SSDI is Social Security disability insurance. So the insurance part is for people that paid into Social Security and, have part of the insurance, you had to work 5 of the last 10 years. So if you ever worked in the last 10 years and you want to file for disability insurance, we'll say, well, sure, you're insured, but you're not recently insured. So again, there's an exception to the exceptions. So the SSI is essentially a national welfare program. It used to be administered by the states, but the Social Security Administration took over that program in the early 1970s. So that's a welfare-based program. But they can get Medicare, obviously, because if they have Medicaid, but they're not insured for Medicare, but they have Medicaid, what they can do is the MSP, right? Medicare Savings Program. They can call their local Medicaid office and say, hey, can y'all, pay for my Medicare? Again, because, the states like that. They like paying for Medicare. And you're like, well, because if someone's getting, $10,000 of medical help because they go to the doctors and stuff, the state is paying $10,000 for this person every year to take care of their medical. They like, paying for the Part A and the Part B, $500-$600 a month. and move those costs over to the federal government. So it's all a shell game, bureaucratically. So the states pay for that. That's why they pay for that. And that way they can move the cost over to the federal government. So I always tell people only receive an SSI, hey, call up a Medicaid office and see if they'll pay for your Part A and Part B. And then give me a call back, and tell me what happens. And if they say, oh yeah, they're going to pay for it, then it's a beautiful thing. You can sign them up for Medicare.
And normally SSDI, once you're on it for 24 months, then Medicare automatically A and B starts. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
And then once that starts, guys, then it's game on for us as agents, because at that point, we're coming in and doing what we do. So now that we're in the Medicare game, let's talk about Medicare. Somebody turning 65. All right. And I will tell you from my experience, and I did it for a friend of mine. And it took me 3 hours. And I'm like, it was a very long 3 hours to get this guy set up on ACA.gov, do all the identity crap. We even had to use the little camera here I had to put him on my chair, and he talked to somebody online. I mean, there was a lot of security measures, which is great, but it ate up 3 hours of my time. Then this is the funny thing that he told me, Ed. He's like, dude, why didn't you just tell me to go to a Social Security office? I would have gone, not wasted your time. I'm like, really? Thanks, man. So anyway, bottom line is I learned my lesson. Hey, let the pros handle the enrollment of A and B, then you come on in and do this. So let's talk about A and B and what a senior needs to do.
Yep. All right. So yeah. Even though I've done it, hundreds of thousands of times online, I would never help anybody, because it just sucks up too much of your time. Again, it could take 20 minutes, but it could take 3 hours. So I completely avoid that. All right. So when they're 65, when they turn 65, if they're already on benefits, they're already receiving the retirement benefits, Medicare will start automatically. They will automatically get their Part A and Part B card about 3 months before they turn 65. So they don't have to do anything. If they want to keep it, they keep it, and that's it. Then they call you and you set them up with a plan. But if they don't want it because they're currently working and have health insurance from work, and the health insurance for work is, you always ask them, do you like it? I just talked to somebody yesterday. They have health insurance from work. They don't have to sign up, but they don't like it. So it's a beautiful thing. So if you currently have health insurance from work, you or your spouse's work. So if they have spousal health insurance, not retirement health insurance, they'll still get penalized. It has to be from current work, and the employer has to be 20 or more employees. So that's one of the things even Social Security employees mess up. Again, they don't stay in their lane. Social Security employees, by the way, do not know anything about Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, health insurance, or anything like that. They know how to sign people up for Medicare A and B, and tell them maybe a little bit about 20% and B, and that's it. That's all they know. They just sign people up for Medicare, and that's it. Get a replacement, Medicare card, that's it. So they know nothing about Medicare Advantage and supplements. So there's that. So if they don't want, Part A, Part B, they just return the card. And, maybe they want to keep Part A because it's free. If they're not receiving benefits, then they have to actually go on to ACA.gov, go to the local office, and file for Medicare. Some people just go down there and file for Part A, but some people do both B if they're not working, obviously. And if you delay because you're working, and then at 67 years old, you decide to go ahead and stop working, then you have 8 months from when you stop working to go ahead and sign up for Part B to avoid the penalties. The penalties are 10% for every 12 months you were supposed to sign up for those benefits. Okay. And I always tell my people, it says, yeah, you legally have 8 months, but you know what's going to happen within those 8 months, right? You're going to get sick or fall or something like that. So about a month or two before you're going to stop working, call up Social Security, get your Medicare started. And the day after your other health insurance stops, your new one starts. And let's see, where else we want to talk about Medicare.
So while you're there, and this is a little confusing, because I understand the Part D as in Delta, that penalty, but the Part B is 10% for every 12 months. Is that what you said?
Exactly. Yep.
It,
10% for every 12 for the rest of their lives.
is it
Forever.
prorated? Let's just say they were 15 months out. Is it a proration?
Yeah, no, it's just a full 12 months period.
Okay, so
Yep.
there it
And
is.
then,
So
but then they also have to deal with the enrollment. So even though they were 15 months out, and it's like, okay, yeah, I just learned about it, but they can't file right then. They have to wait until the general enrollment period from January until March 31st. So up until a couple of years ago, if they, delayed, they would have to wait until the new year and then file in January, February, March, and their benefits, their Medicare wouldn't start until July. Luckily,
right.
Congress just changed that, and now it changes, it starts essentially the next month. So yeah, and that 10% lasts forever. They will have to pay that forever, $164 plus 10% or 20%. And then there's IRMA as well for people that are high, income wage earners. Social Security charges them another premium above the 164. So they pay another, $200 or $300 depending on their income from 2 years prior. So if they have, if someone says, hey, I'm being charged as IRMA, watch my video on that. They can challenge that if they have a life-changing event, file a SSA 44 and say, hey, sure, I was making, $1 million a couple of years ago, but I stopped working, last month, or I just got divorced, or whatever the case may be. One of the big ones that people got hit all the time was they had sold a house and they got, $300,000 for their house, and that triggers an IRMA. And they say, well, I just sold a house. That's a one-time thing. Congress didn't make any allowance for that. So if they get that they're going to get an IRMA. It's only for 1 year though. And then once that 1 year, then it goes back to the regular 164.90. So to sign up in the special enrollment period, so if they have part, if they delay sign up for Part B after a couple of years, then they just a 564 and a 40B. They just take the form to their employer, and their employer writes off that yes, this person had, credible coverage since they turned 65 and they had health insurance, and this is when it stopped, and they don't have to pay the 10% penalty.
There you go. And then, so I want to reiterate, guys, I'm glad you mentioned this. So new rule starting 2023, during the general enrollment, we always had a deal with July 1 effective dates. So they come in January, finally make the decision. They realize that they missed their enrollment period when they should have enrolled. So they waited it out, and now they got to wait even more. Well, that was fixed this year, guys, 2023. Now it's always going to start the first of the month. So I think that was a good change that came along. I didn't quite understand why they penalized them, but it is what it is. Now, and the other point, and I'm glad you mentioned this because I've seen this. So they have to have work coverage, not retiree or COBRA. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, not COBRA, not retiree. It actually has to be health insurance from actually working.
So
from an employer that has 20 or more employees.
Either themselves or a spouse.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, if it's under 20, then they have to get their A and B.
Exactly. Yes.
So, guys, again, a lot of rules. And, and I always tell agents, you're not going to make money. I mean, yes, you may want to help them, and maybe you want to elevate yourself, as more of an expert. But that time that you spent helping them with that, you could have been helping another senior enroll in a health plan. Just let the Social Security people do what they do, and then you can come in there and do what you do and what you've been trained to do. Ed, I think we've nailed it. I think we hit, some income, spousal benefits, survivor benefits, disability, Medicare. And I think we maybe just touched the tip of the iceberg. Guys, I will tell you, if you want to learn more, okay, I'm going to put his channel up one more time. Okay. In this video, I just wanted to give you a little bit of knowledge so that you know enough to know, hey, I better send them over there. This is just, I'm way out of my league. But here's his channel. Let me get it pulled up here. Where is
And
it? There.
don't make fun of my terrible YouTube. You can see I got my lighting all terrible now. You're doing a great job on the lighting there. I'm not at my usual place, so my lighting is all messed up. I look like I'm in a cave here, but
No,
so
that's
don't
fine.
harass me. I'm my amateur YouTube channel here.
Hey, that's the way it
It's
goes. No
a
worries. But there's his
yeah.
channel, guys. You're dealing with an educator. You're also dealing with a former Social Security manager. Hit him up, guys. He knows his stuff, and so subscribe to his channel and do his thing there. Ed, any final words for agents out there? Maybe experienced ones, even the new ones. We got a lot of new people coming into this business.
Yeah, just it takes time. You get in there and it's again, I teach Asian history and for instance, I teach my specialty is Japanese history, Japanese intellectual history, but I also teach Filipino history, Chinese history. And it's interesting, the you know companies like Coke have been trying to break the China market, for decades. They're in there now, but historically they were trying to break the China market, and you always had some you know, company in America or Europe, and they're like, oh, 1.3 billion people times 50 cents a Coke. And yet, oh my gosh, we can make so much money. And they get all excited and stuff like that. So yeah, when you first start out, it's, you do the calculate, well, if I can get 1,000 people to sign up for Medicare and do this, that, and the other. And so you get that in your head, and that's great and beautiful and stuff. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't come to fruition as quickly as you would wish. And it's just a matter of staying on it and staying educated, watching Lewis's videos on a daily basis. I watch his videos and other videos out there on a daily basis to get educated, because the one thing I hate more than anything is for someone to ask me a question and I don't know it. I don't mind, I'll research it, but I always like to know it. So to be educated and to be able to answer everybody's questions, it gives them the insured a sense of relief that they've gone to the right person.
And I do the very same thing. If you don't know it, this is not one of those fake it kind of type of deals. Just tell them, hey,
Right.
that's a good question. I'm going to come back to you on that one. Let me research that. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to come
What
with
I, what
some,
I
go ahead.
what I always tell them is that I know Congress is doing a lot of things, doing a lot of changes recently with the recent Inflation Reduction Act and stuff like that. Let me see if there's any changes recently, and that way you can play it off. So you still sound very, very authoritative. You're just saying, I'm going to get the most updated information for you. So let me see if there's any changes recently on the recently passed act. And there's not. You just don't know the issue. So you kind of play it off that way.
I like that. That's good. That's a good play. I like that. And then I'm going to finish off with this, guys. And again, I want to thank you so much for your time, Ed. But I'm going to, this is the way we train agents. Ed mentioned earlier that a lot of seniors don't plan for retirement, or at least the planning started while they were there in that Social Security office, trying to figure out, what am I going to do now that I'm not working? And they had the understanding the government's going to take care of me. $1,800 is the average check. Okay. Now, Ed, out of curiosity, was that the take home or the gross?
That's the actual the gross before Medicare and all the rest of it. Yep.
So I'm gonna do some quick math, and you got to think, what are these seniors having to deal with? All right, so let's so they have the 1,800. They possibly are going to have that 164 and change that's going to be deducted from that check. So you got a little bit less there, and then on top of that, their living expenses. We got inflation. Everything's more expensive now. Now, here's where I tell agents, look, we need to be very, very impartial. There's really not a best. It's like making a left or a right. There's not a right, there's not a wrong. It's like buying a car or a truck. Hey, it really depends. A rancher may need a truck. Some guy lives in the city, be happy with a little Honda Insight. You never know. But we teach our agents this is and I just, which one is better? Well, there's not a better. So we teach agents, look, you present and let them tell you. We as agents already know the statistics with what Ed just shared there with you on what the average check is, which means there's people making more, but there's also a lot of people making less. There may not be a lot of money left over for a supplement and a prescription drug plan. If there is, awesome. Yes, there's a lot of pros a few cons with going with option one, which is a med sup and a prescription plan. Then there's also a lot of positives and a lot of negatives with going with option two. Your job as an agent is to present, give them the pros and the cons on both, and let them tell you. Your market's going to tell you which way they're going to go normally. My market, 9 out of 10 go option two, go MAPD. I'm in a very low income market here in San Antonio. Okay, it is what it is. 9 out of 10 of my seniors will choose an advantage plan over a supplement. I even have people that have plenty of money, but they just don't want to spend it. They're healthy. They're like, I don't really need it right now. I'm good. I'm going to be just, I want an advantage plan. And then I do have the exceptions also, where I got people that have cancer. They're going through some serious medical conditions, and they have a lot of doctors, and we can't quite fit all their doctors into the network of these MAPDs. So they're willing to pay for that supplement, because this is going to be the only time they get it without underwriting, no health questions. So your job as an agent is to present both, let them tell you which way to go. Then you do your job and you collect some data, and then you start narrowing down your choices and find one that fits that senior. Either way, you make a living, and you make a damn good living. Either way, they go med subs, you make money on the med sub, you make money on the prescription drug plan. They go MAPD, you make money on that. Either way, you come out ahead. And I hear on social media, Ed, and I'm sure you're out there, where they badmouth option two. Option one is the best. Why are agents doing this? Who cares? Every senior is got their own personal needs and their own personal income scenario, and they just may not be able to afford a med sub. It is what it is. So that's kind of my parting words for you agents. You need to learn both. You need to have your lineup for each of those. And you need to run the scenario for that senior against those lineups, so that you can figure out what's going to be best for that senior. So
Remember, that, you can make a med sup light, set them up with Medicare Advantage, and also hospital indemnity.
Favorite. That's right. It's all in the hips, baby. I would do that. It's all in the hips. I'm not going to get up and dance. All right. Yeah, why not? I just do it. All right. Yes, it's all in the hips. You're like, what is Reese doing? Hospital indemnity plans. Yes, you can make your advantage plan look like a Medicare supplement by indemnifying for some of the out-of-pocket costs that these seniors are going to have.
Yep.
So yes, you can definitely do that.
Fifth of the price.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And financially, it's a lot less than an actual med sup in a PDP. So it is what it is, guys. You do your best out there for your seniors. And again, let the Social Security people do what they do. They know what they're doing. As Ed said, was it 2 years of training, I think, and then a whole nother year of supervision. That's what they do, guys. That's what they do. You let them do what they do. You do what you do, and everybody wins. Ed, thank you again. And
you're welcome,
guys. I'm going to share his channel one more time. Let me pull it up here. All right.
Yeah, if you want to do it again, bring some people on, a question and answer. We can do that as well, and I'll make sure I work on my lighting next time.
Perfect. Well, I am going to bring you on to the to our class that we have with our agents. I'm sure they would all love to hear this, because I know they're getting hit with these types of questions out there in the field. So again, Ed, thank you so much. And guys, don't forget, subscribe, like, comment. I do respond to all the comments. And don't forget, go hit up Ed and his channel. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a beautiful day.